Good morning, friends. Pastor Jason on this bright, sunny, birdsong filled Friday. A little bit of a heads up here, just so that you know. This is the same video that will be going out on our Tap Into Faith page, as well as the main page for Montfort Heights UMC today. So if you're one who likes and follows both of those paid pages, you're going to get the same video today. Feel free to like them both and share them both. That would be great. But one video today for both of those sites. I'm going to share today for a bit from this book called God on Mute, written by Pete Craig. This is a book that our friend Todd Underreiner let me borrow. Frankly, way too long ago for me to just be finishing it, but it seems that ever since I started seminary, started working on my master's to make this, ministry dream become real. That started about a year and a half ago. So the non-scholastic reading, non-sermon prep reading really slowed down. I finished this book this week. It's the first time in a while that I get to finish a book. It's kind of reading on the side on my own. It's just a powerful book into exploring sometimes why our prayers don't get answered, or sometimes why that God seems to just be silent in the midst of the worst experiences of our life. A wonderful book. If you're one who has struggled sometimes with sometimes why our prayers don't get answered, or where God is in the midst of some really difficult times, God on Mute might be a great resource for you. I'm going to share today from this chapter in the book that looks at this process of prayer, especially unanswered prayer, kind of through the lens of Holy Week. And right now, where the author has us focused in is on Holy Saturday. That Saturday, that Sabbath day in between Good Friday, when Jesus is killed and buried, and Easter Sunday, when he's resurrected and he's not in the tomb. But that Saturday, that period of just absolute silence and despair. That period where, by all accounts, Jesus is dead and buried. And no matter how much hope that they have that he's right and that he's coming back on Sunday, they still have to weather that Saturday. I'm going to share just a bit here from chapter 11. If I had been one of the disciples, I know exactly where I would have spent that Sabbath. I would have gotten myself out of Jerusalem as fast as my little legs could carry me and headed back to Bethany to hide out with Mary, Martha, and their brother Lazarus. With Jesus dead and buried, there would have been no one I'd have wanted to see more than Lazarus. Lazarus had loved Jesus. Lazarus had been one of the Lord's best friends, and best of all, Lazarus knew a thing or two about being dead and buried. His very life defied the logic of despair, and the fact that his house was a couple of miles out of town made his home the perfect bolt hole. It was in Bethany, at the dinner party thrown by Simon the leper just the previous week, where Mary had wept and anointed Jesus' feet with perfume. That perfume had been expensive, so I imagine its fragrance could still be smelled in the air around Simon's house. And speaking of Simon the leper, he was another harbinger of hope, for the simple reason that thanks to Jesus, he wasn't a leper anymore. In Bethany, the crowds had cheered, "Hosanna." The place had been one of joyful worship. In Bethany, there were many seeds of comfort for a scared and grieving disciple. And perhaps there were also faint whispers hanging in the air, like that perfume, suggesting that all was not lost. I hope you have a place like Bethany that you can go to when you're wrestling with unanswered prayer. It could be a place or a book or a piece of music that reminds you of all the good things that God has done in the past. It could be a person like Lazarus, whose very being makes the presence and power of God real to you even when life is at its worst. Bethany is a connection point that reminds you of something you once knew for sure, that God can do immeasurably more than all you ask or imagine, that the kingdom remains a matter of power even when there's little evidence of it in your present situation, and that all things are possible for him who believes. Bethany's the kind of community or the kind of family where you can sometimes still smell the perfume of God's presence. Now, friends, I share that today. That struck a chord with me when I read it as we're in. This is a pretty prolonged Sabbath day, pretty prolonged Saturday that a lot of us have been spending, weeks and months in. We look ahead to what might be coming, and are things going to get shut back down again? Are more restrictions going to come back into place? We've already been through so much. Where's the progress? When does the switch flip to go in the right direction and stay that way? As we sit here in the space, friends, where is your Bethany? Where is your place of comfort? Who are the people that you can go see and interact with who remind you of hope, who remind you of God's presence? I hope and pray that you have that place, you have those people, you have that book, that verse, that song, that hobby, whatever it might be, that's your place or your person of centering in the midst of all of this difficulty and all of this chaos. And I think even more so than maybe asking you or getting us to this place to get to think about where those places are, who those people are for us, are we those kinds of people for our friends, for our family, for our community? Are we that person of peace, that person who reminds people of God's goodness just by how we act and how we live and how we work? Are we a part of a place that is a place of comfort and connection for people? And if not, what do we have to do to make it? What do we have to do to foster a community, to build a community that God's presence just hangs in the air? It's palpable. We can sense it. We can smell it. What are the things that we can do in our homes, in our places of work, in our church, in our community, as we hang out with our kids and their families? What is it that we need to do to build a Bethany right now? We see how important that it could have been for the disciples on that Saturday, when they have nothing else, when everything else seems to be falling apart. They can go to what's familiar. They can go to what connects them back to God. They can go to what reminds them of all of the good things that God has done. And they can get centered, they can get reoriented, and they can start to get their footing again to face what the future is going to bring them. Having a place like Bethany in our lives is so important. And if we don't have one, we need to work on finding one. But I think even more so, being a part of a community like a Bethany, being someone like Mary, Martha, Simon, or Lazarus, that we can remind people, who God is by how that we live. Just people can come and speak to us and talk to us, and just kind of get just that echo of hope that they might be missing. I think there's a lot that can be done. There's a lot that can be unpacked from this little excerpt that Pete Craig offers us from God on Mute. I ask you to spend some time thinking about that today. Spend some time exploring that today. Do you have that place that you can go? Do you have that person that you can go to And are you that person? And how can you build and foster that place of community right here and now for so many people who are just, you know, lost direction? The hope is fading. But what can we do to allow people to reconnect and reorient themselves and get centered and get connected and get grounded? Be a wonderful resource, a wonderful asset if we can do that, friends. Thanks for spending this time together with us today. Hope you have a wonderful Friday. Have a great weekend. Be safe, be well, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Just remember how much that you are loved. We will see you soon, friends.